Welcome again, RedemptionX. How are you doing, my people? We are sitting today with another hot topic on our hands. And as per usual, we've got the man behind the whole explanation of certain things we want to know, whether at home, whether with your friends, wherever you're sitting at, or especially with your partner, because this is around marriages. And the biggest thing we want to unpack today, and we're going to do it with Mr. Rick himself, is why marriages are failing. Hey, Rick, how are you?
No, I'm brilliant, and greetings to the viewers as well.
Yep.
Thank you for having me. I think we're going to have a sharp session today, and we're going to make sure that we really build and engrave something that's of substance towards the people so that we can actually build and construct something that actually works.
Definitely, definitely. You heard it here, guys. We're trying to make sure that, you know what, we give you something that works. We let you walk away with empowering knowledge, with knowledge that's going to help you in your marriages. But we have to identify what it is that's making marriages fail. So let's go straight into it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Why are South African marriages specifically?
Yeah.
And if I look at some of the stats that we were talking about, 47%.
Yeah, look, I think what you need to actually see concerning South African marriage is that there's a change of normality. The norms that we were accustomed to in prior stages of pre-1991 till what we are today have become very different. And so a lot of people are struggling to adapt to some of these changes. And these changes also require character development. They require personality development as well in order for people to sustain quality marriages. And so because of that distancing in terms of that growth, we end up having falling, chaotic, disturbed marriages because people still stay uninformed. You know, we are still one of the most ignorant, societies in the world.
Wow.
And we are also, for example, when people are even WhatsApping us, just to discuss how much is to counsel, how much is to book, how much is to that, you'll notice that, like, I'm not going to read all of this information. Just tell me where I need to come and so forth. And you realize that I think we have a society that is very ignorant towards information. And that is what is causing the exact destruction of most marriages, the lack of consumption of information that's already there.
You want counseling, but you don't want to read about what the counseling entails.
Exactly. And that's where the death comes in, because ignorance obviously produces results of failure. And that's where most people are. Men are ignorant on leading houses. They're ignorant on what it means to be a man. They're ignorant on what it means to be, that providence person in the household. Women are ignorant on domestic affairs. They're ignorant on what it means to respect a man. That whole plateau of ignorance is destroying marriages in and of themselves.
Wow.
And that's why we can't have sharp marriages. And even those people who have been saying, I've been married for 40 years, 50 years, or whatever it is. It's one thing to have a 50-year-old marriage that's horrible.
Sure.
And then have somebody who has a 5-year marriage that's like literally powerful.
That's powerful.
I would rather have the 5-year marriage one.
Definitely.
So it's not about numbers per se. It's about what quality of marriage are you necessarily having. And I think that's where people get lost, because when they hear somebody say, I'm 30 years married, I'm 20 years married, I'm 40 years married, they immediately think that this person is a juggernaut of marriage, is well versed in marriage.
But just because of the years.
Exactly. And you can still be 50, 60, 70 years old and still be dumb.
You can be running in one place but not getting anywhere.
Exactly. And stuck in the routine of life. But you're not necessarily building something that is of worth and that is of quality.
Powerful.
There are beautiful marriages out there that are distinguished and that are valuable out there because both the parties decided that they're going to add value to themselves in order to complement each other as they unite as a couple, and the children grow up in beautiful environments. But those marriages are very rare, because oftentimes in most cases you get marriages where one in the marriage is stubborn, unable to grow, unable to achieve, unable to do all these types of things because of the quality of choices that they make.
They're lacking in that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and you know what? You've said a mouthful. And, when you speak of certain challenges within marriages as well, it takes me to, a point we were discussing as well the other day around some of the financial distresses that marriages are going through.
Of course.
And, I want you to unpack that a bit, especially post-COVID-19.
Of course.
Because we've seen a lot of people, lose their way, so to speak.
Yeah. Money is it's almost like air. You need it to fulfill certain important factors of life.
True.
It is the communication language that we use to actually get stuff into our lifestyle, into our education. So money is a very important necessity. However,
Communication language.
people
I love
have
that.
people have the wrong relationship with money. So the problem is not the money, it's the relationship people have with money. And so if you get married to somebody who has the wrong relationship with money, they're going to manifest that in the confines of marriage, showing you that they have a poor quality of choice as it pertains to the value of money. I'll give you a very strong example. If you go and marry a poor man as a woman, the poverty that is in his life is exemplifying the level of quality decisions that man makes. The same is true for the woman. If a woman is in poverty and she can't get out of the poverty, sometimes it's also, in most cases, showing the level of decision making she has.
Wow.
And that's just it's not even
Poverty
a give and take.
mentality.
Exactly.
And it's a term I used to use in a previous industry a lot with some of the guys that reported into me.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, poverty mentality is what stops us from achieving certain things.
Of course.
Because your poor thinking
Yeah.
makes you give poor decisions, even around money.
Of course.
And that's the impact of it all.
It's a big impact. I mean, there's this show that everybody watches where people win the lottery. I remember it's called I Blew It. And you can see on that show, the problem is not the money. The problem has never been the money. The problem is the mindset of the person.
Yeah.
A person can earn right now 50 million, right? And they can blow 50 million in a year.
Some less.
You understand? Some even less. And you ask yourself, how did you do it? You realize that they don't have a quality mind that's well trained, well stretched. That mind that has been inculcated with proper, authentic, divine information that can actually help them to propel their future forward. So you realize that the mind is defeated.
Wow.
So even if you put money into a relationship, if the mindsets are flawed, that relationship is going nowhere. So sometimes money exposes the quality of relationship you have. For example, you might sit down there and say, you know what, I've got this relationship, it's brilliant. The minute you start earning money, the whole marriage dies. That's when you realize that both of them are not carrying a proper quality mind as it pertains to the relationship. Oh, yeah.
Whoa. And, I want to dig deeper with this one as well.
Yeah.
If you've seen on social platforms, everywhere we look these days, there's this drive around, I'm an independent woman.
Oh, yeah.
I run my life.
Yes.
However, you find also that these are the same people that are getting divorced.
Oh, yeah.
That are not doing well in relationships. What's your view on that? What's making it seem like that? I want you to think of it, keeping the whole essence of feminism in mind.
Okay.
Versus what's happening today.
Yeah. Let's park feminism. We'll enter it now.
Okay.
So the main issue here is that you are independent from what exactly? Because people come and they say I'm independent. You see, when I say I'm independent of something, I mean I have no longer a reliance on something. So if you come in and say, no, I'm very much independent from my parents, that's understandable because you've built that stance.
Yes.
But if you come and say I'm an independent woman, independent from what exactly? And a lot of them, they don't even understand this viewpoint of independence. It's much like a woman that comes and says, you know what? I can buy my own car, I can buy my own this and so forth.
You're supposed to.
You're supposed to be able to.
You're an adult.
Exactly. So women don't understand the difference between adulting and independence in of itself. If a man becomes an independent man, I mean, you don't find such
You don't find that.
Exactly my point.
There's a meme I was reading the other day that actually said that said, when a man has built himself, you've never hear a man say, I'm an independent man.
No. That stuff you can never get because that stuff also comes from people who are from the lifestyle of poverty.
Poverty mentality.
You understand? Because they could never hold anything, never earn anything, never, own anything. So when they reach that particular stance, certain behaviors manifest that you don't like. For example, if I put $1 million in somebody's hands who could never do much in their lives, you might be surprised. They might even go and buy Glenfiddich as the first item. They might even go and buy Jameson as the first item, because
They
they
wanna
don't know.
celebrate.
Yeah, probably they don't know what to do.
They don't know.
They don't know at all.
And you might find that person drinking it to a point where they lose all the money.
Of course.
With that first bad decision.
Yeah. So money is the greatest tester of checking if you have reached a state of maturity in life. Because how you spend it, exactly, how you spend it determines the quality of life that you are going to live. And so the issue here is not necessarily feminism. A woman by nature is a feminine creature.
True.
But when we say feminism in its originality was designed to actually put women on pedestals that were not biased. And therefore, some women took it and overdrove it.
Yeah.
And it became a monster instead of something that empowered the true femininity of women in terms of what they ought to be today. And just because they made it extreme now, they're now enjoying the benefits of making something extreme. And that's where now men don't want to date such. They don't want to be with such. They don't want to operate with such. And some of them might sit down and say, okay, yeah, no, but I hear you on that particular matter. However, I'm still feminine prone and stuff like that. But welcome to the world of the most divorcing feminists.
Yep, and that's the high rate of one of the reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Because you wanted to have your own stance, your own way.
Yeah.
And understanding feminism from an empowerment point of view.
Yeah.
It was just to make sure that women were on an equal footing.
Of course.
To men, especially when you look at the corporate sector. But now once you bring it into the house, you're taking away what you said you loved about me, my masculinity.
Exactly.
My sense of provision, my sense of being a husband, a partner, a protector, a provider, all of that.
Exactly.
And now you're saying, no, we're equal.
Exactly. And to be honest with you, men and women will never be equal.
That's the
strengths
gospel truth.
differ. Yeah, our strengths differ. I mean, if you go for right now, a man is strong in his hands. You'll never take that away from him. But a woman is stronger in her pelvis. That's why if you notice when women carry stuff, they can't use their hands. So what they'll do is they'll use their hips to thrust that particular item. I'm sure men have noticed that. But our strengths will never be the same and they'll never be in the same areas.
Yeah.
So what we ought to do is accept the complementary nature of our differences. So that we can actually build something that is worthwhile. And that is why most marriages in South Africa are collapsing because men want to be women and women want to be men. And that's where the destruction comes in because we will never be able to fit that particular caliber. You can never in any way as being a man be a woman. It can never happen. Unless you go for what you call gender transformation and change, which we do get that today. No offense to those people. The LGBTQXYQZ economy. You understand? But at the end of the day, we need to come back to the true essence of why these marriages are collapsing. And that is because we are an ignorant nation.
The ignorance theme is coming on strong here. What is some of the other reasons you've seen, especially within your field of counseling and talking to couples, that is contributing to such a high rate of failing marriages in South Africa?
We think we know it all. South Africa is an economy that thinks they know it all. And we need to change from that mindset because we can't know an environment and then think that we can just pierce into it by osmosis. That's not how it works. And that's what defeating a lot of our people. Even, for example, simplicity of jobs like being a waiter, cleaning the streets and so forth. You'll hear a person say that, you know what, I don't see, this is not for me. It's for a foreigner. It's for this. It's for that. And you can see that mindset is not what will build the economy that we want. The truth of the matter is that not only is it our ignorance that's driving us in that space, but we belittle certain things. And those things we belittle end up, destroying us at the end of the day. And it's displacing children. That's why we are starting to have one of the highest rates in Africa of imprisoned children, highest rates in Africa of starving children, one of the highest rates, because we're no longer, fitting to the purpose of what we originally came from as our roots pertain to.
And now you're touching on a very powerful point when we speak of, alignment.
Of course.
What have you seen that misalignment has done to
Yeah.
people, whether it's business goals,
Yeah.
whether it's life goals, whether
Yeah.
it's professionalism,
Yeah.
or certain fields that you are in,
Yeah.
that we are maybe not aligned. How has that contributed to
You know, I always
divorces?
say this: don't marry what you can't intelligently keep. You don't marry.
Let's hear that again.
Yeah, don't marry what you can't intelligently keep.
Oh, wow.
And what happens is that a body can only do so much. You understand? But
I feel you.
the most powerful essence of us as human beings is our minds. And the more we inculcate information into our minds that helps us to have better tomorrows,
Yeah.
the more we become better people. When you marry somebody that does not want to develop, that does not want to become better, that does not want to grow, in the long run, you will end up outgrowing that person. And this is one of the reasons why marriages are falling and collapsing in South Africa, because we are not willing to grow with our spouses. And this is where they lose each other, because the other spouse will start looking at the other one as, you're dumb, you're not growing, you're not becoming better, you're not adding value. So tell me why I'm here. You understand? I can literally go get a maid to do my cooking. I can literally go get a man to do my garden. I can literally... So we are building something that is not sustainable. And because of that unsustainability, people end up going to divorce courts, trying to get out of those marriages simply because they got married to somebody who does not want to actually add value to themselves.
Their lives.
Oh, yeah. And that's a big factor. And this is where cheating also comes in. Because though we can't justify cheating, we also need to understand that some people are ready to exit their relationships. And they are ready to get out because they are realizing that the more I stay here, I might fall into a mental state of depression. I might fall into this. I might fall into that. This one might end up holding me back from the truth of who I ought to be in life. So some cheating does not happen because you are lusting or you are this. It's just that you have announced that you want to get out. You've announced that you want to leave.
And no one would let you.
And no one would let you. So what happens is that people end up going out. Some women end up going out. Some men end up going out. It's not the right way to do things. But however, sometimes it's because that relationship has just fallen apart.
And you're left with no choice.
Exactly. But then to step out. However, I'm not condoning cheating.
True.
It does carry a very bad effect. But we also need to understand that if you cannot satisfy certain essences of your spouse, and you're expecting them to just keep on smiling with you, you are in one of the highest deceptions of life, because you are not realizing that you are actually setting back somebody whom their parents spend money to get them educated.
True.
Their parents spend money to get them where they ought to be. Their parents added value, ethics, morals, all those things to get married to you, who devours that particular stuff. And that person ends up not living the best life they're supposed to live because you don't want to grow and develop. And that's the problem with South African marriages. We are not willing to educate ourselves as our spouses are growing to become on par in order to maintain that particular relationship. It's like letting yourself go. You don't go to the gym, you don't exercise, you don't eat well, you don't do any of that stuff. And you are just growing fat and fat and fat, and yet you're expecting that person to stay attracted to you. It's foolishness, that stuff.
It is foolishness. Because at the end of the day, yes, there's human development and changes that happen. However, you still need to remember that attraction factor that that person had.
Of course.
And physical attraction is normal to have. Because that's mostly where it starts, especially for a male. And wow. Because,
Attraction is a necessity of life. We are not just walking bags of air. You understand? We see each other with eyes. You know, one man once said that, you know, the woman was like, yeah, I know I've become fat, but you gotta love my character. And the guy said, yeah, but I don't walk with X-ray vision. You understand? I also need to see, you understand, what you look like.
Superman.
Exactly. You know, and so some demands in marriages are ridiculous. You need to be realistic with yourself. How are you going to stay attracted? How are you going to maintain that particular item? And most people don't want to go down that road. There is what we call intellectual attraction and physical attraction and emotional attraction. These things are not the same.
True.
You can sit down and be physically attracted to your spouse. intellectually attracted to your spouse, where you have genuine, authentic educational conversations that construct something greater than what you've got. And emotional attraction, where you love the way your spouse is emotionally intelligent and how they administer life. But if you don't have these three attractions in life, you're going to have serious chaotic problems when it comes to that relationship.
And when you say that, you take me to, we once had a discussion with the gents in one of our roundtable segments. And I explained that personally, I'm a person who's a sapiosexual.
Yes.
And that for me says the intellect that you bring,
of course,
is the first thing I look at. Well, the second thing.
Yeah.
After, obviously, the physical
attraction.
And if the mind is not functional, if you're not reading the room the way I would like, I have the right to say you're not my type.
Of course, of course.
And the way now you've described those three, it makes so much sense that for any gender, for that matter, there's certain elements you look for, in your partner.
I like what you're saying, because it's much like marrying somebody who only knows how to cook and clean, or marrying a man that only knows how to work a garden, but they can't work a bank account. They can't work life policies. They can't work this. So you're sitting down there and you're asking yourself, listen, is there anything more that you know in life than just trying to grow some plants and water them? And you go to the woman and say, is there anything that you know in life than just cooking a pot and putting it, on my table with nice food? And you realize that, I can't discuss anything with this person because they are limited in their flow. And so growing in the relationship now creates a much more heavier, better, fluent, liquid conversation where even if you're driving long distances, you can have very intellectual conversations in the car. But imagine you're driving with a slay queen that only knows how to cipher her nails, wear a wig, and on top of that, when she rocks out the car, the buttocks are shaking, and that's all you've got. When you step in the car and you talk, I don't know what you're talking about.
What are you talking about?
Let's talk about, world disasters. Let's talk about what's happening in the United States. Let's talk about the immigration issue. Let's talk about Ukraine and Russia.
Let's talk about Mkwanas.
Exactly.
The subject.
Let's talk about the issue of the Mkwanazi, era. And you realize that the person doesn't know anything of what's going on around them. And you're like, but what conversations can I have with you? Besides sex in the bedroom, besides some kinkiness here and there, you realize that I only have 5% of this relationship, the 95% is not there. And that is why it's very important to add value to yourself as a man and as a woman, so that you can construct something that actually makes sense at the end of the day. And the problem we have today is that nobody wants to construct anything. We want quick, rich schemes.
Instant gratification.
Exactly.
Instant gratification. And when we speak of instant gratification, it takes me to, a question that I've always wanted to delve into and understand. Social media.
Yeah.
What has been your view of how social media has reshaped marriages? Look at it from this context. The more I see things around marriage, the more I envision certain types of marriages I make, or certain types of marriages that are out there, or what I want for myself. Has that been a negative or positive towards marriages in South Africa?
It's all about perception in life.
Okay.
If you really have a good eye in life, you can be able to spot the fake from the real. And many people are not able to spot that. And that's why they want to live lives that are imaginary. And they only live in that imaginary lifestyle and stance. And that's why we need to look at one very common factor. Is the life genuine? And is it really advisable to live that particular life? Because social media is a drive of a fantasy world. And so you're not going to be living like that. I mean, you see a person wake up with makeup. You understand? Oh, I woke up, I made coffee.
I woke up like this.
Yeah. And you're asking yourself, who does that on an ordinary basis? I mean, when
cup
you wake
of coffee, cappuccino with your weave on.
And you look at people, you're like, but that life is not real.
Yeah.
It's not genuine. You're going to wake up drooling, you understand? Your eyes with a little bit of, that on the side. And your hair is not even made up very well. So we're selling dreams to people. And that's what social media does. It sells dreams to people. And people need to become very realistic with themselves and say that, look, this life is not the life to wear. So social media has impacted marriages to such a stance that people believe that they can replicate that life every day. And they don't realize that that's an unrealistic goal in life. And we don't know how to separate dreams from reality. And that is why we pursue stuff that at the end of the day, you can't become that.
Sure.
That's the problem of thing. We are chasing fantasies that at the end of the day, we can't sustain.
And the reality of marriage is that there's work involved.
Of course.
There is work involved. And for you to just sit and think what you saw based on this celebrity marriage is exactly what you are hoping to get is literally living in a fantasy world.
And I've counseled celebrities. Obviously, because of my credentials, I cannot disclose
of course.
what happens. But one thing I can tell you about celebrities is that it's not everything that glitters that's actually gold. You know, and that's a statement I'll have to give the whole public. Don't look at a celebrity's marriage and think it's all nice and well.
And roses.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I don't believe in something until I see it properly and authentically in reference to marriages, especially when it pertains to reality. Because at the end of the day, you see a millionaire and you think they're having a very good life. And you think that it's what will make you have a good life is to become a millionaire. And you discover that a lot of millionaires are not necessarily in a phase of enjoyment.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Top 15 billionaires in the planet. You'll discover that over 60% of that top 20 to be exact, they're not married. They're not married. And so marriage, it doesn't mean when you're married you'll make the type of money you want to make. Marriage does not necessarily make you more powerful as a couple. You know, it just means that you have certain values that you want to gratify with each other.
True.
That those particular values can also help you to raise kids. It does not mean you'll be the richest person on the planet. The richest person on the planet today is not married. Jeff Bezos today is not married. The Virgin Active owner is not married. The steel company owner in Mexico is not married. A lot of characters that are extremely wealthy are not married. And if you think marriage is going to bring you billions, you are mistaken, because it was never designed for that.
Yeah.
Marriage was designed to complement two personalities who have mastered their individuality or singleness.
Yeah.
And if you have not mastered your singleness and you want to rely on another person to become a better person, you are missing the true point of what marriage is about.
And you totally have.
Of course.
Because no one is put on this planet to make sure that you achieve certain elements because they exist.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I love how you put it when you said marriage is not designed for that.
Oh, yeah.
And this is why, you know, when you look at celebrities nowadays, it's like this is the reason why they broke up, because they got in it for the wrong reasons.
Of course. Of
you
course.
know?
To every consummation of marriage, there is a source to why you went into it. And some people's source are hidden. Some people can fake it till they enter into the marriage. And once they are in there, their true agenda comes out. And so don't think that every marriage out there is a whole good fairy tale that is you know, given to the public.
Yeah.
Some marriages are just a clear outline of people's greed, people's inability to actually live alone. Some people get married because they are actually lonely. It's not necessarily because I want to empower myself with somebody. Oh, yeah.
Wow. Some people get married because they're lonely.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's part of the reason why we want a partner. But if that's the only reason and your biggest drive, then it says a lot about how maybe you are miserable with self.
Oh, yeah. You know, I had a friend who was doing Lobola, and they charged him 150,000. Serious amounts.
In 2025?
In 2025, they charged the guy 150,000. He went and he paid it, you know.
Wow.
And then when the marriage started, he couldn't keep the woman home. He couldn't keep the woman home.
I wonder why.
When he tried to give her direction, she didn't listen.
Yeah.
You could see this was a woman who married for the sake of Lobola to leave. That's literally what it was. And I remember a scenario of a couple I counseled when the parents came through of the daughter.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, this particular man married our daughter because he wanted to make sure that as we pass on, he can get the inheritance as well through the wife. And they saw it because of the types of communication that was happening between the mother and the son. That was actually starting to show, because the daughter, you know, intercepted the phone somehow when she was just reading an ordinary text in his phone. However, I also have a scenario where after the young man finished paying Lobola, the parents then said that money we're going to use it to educate you. And the minute you leave that marriage, just make sure you don't get pregnant. The minute you leave that marriage, you will have a qualification in your hands.
Yeah.
Literally. And so the guy believed
into a
it was
business, basically.
No, it is. In some families, a business. Do you know that in some regions, KZN, Eastern Cape, some women are supposed to be married, but they are not married because of the father's greed. The father's greed has caused them to live outside of the confines of marriage because the man wants to hold 100,000 in his life that he has never held in his life, but through the hard work of somebody else's parent who invested in their own sons out there. Yeah,
that is true. That is true, and it's something that is not uncommon because wealth it reflects a lot within a family, and I think maybe also this is a contributing factor to why men are staying single.
Oh yeah.
Because the price tag keeps going up, yet the economy keeps dropping.
And it's not just men that are staying single. Women as well are staying single as well. Because when we look at women, there are women now who are looking for intelligent, hardworking, vision-driven men. And they realize that this whole sect of men that I've got that are within, the vicinity of my view in life are not necessarily fit for what I can be able to give into the marriage. And therefore, they end up also not getting married as well.
Wow.
So some women are out there, they chose to be single because they're not finding men who are of value, men who pertain to what's good in society, men who can actually be present fathers out there. They realize that, I don't have this at all, and I can't work with this.
I'd rather stick to my wine and my cats.
Exactly. I like the way.
I love how I've seen the world.
Yeah.
And, Rick, in the essence of today, what could you, summarize it all to say is one of, or maybe two of the major things that specifically in South Africa is making marriage fail? And what would you offer, our viewers out there as a possible solution?
Okay, so there are four things that are making marriages fail in South Africa deeply. And the first one is honesty. We have a lot of dishonest people in South Africa that do not show a state of truthfulness in their lives. The second one is that we lack transparency as a people. And when we enter relationships, we enter with a secretive mode. And that is the second thing that's destroying marriages, secret agendas in them. The third most important one, we don't have a good relationship with money. We are even willing to use marriage to catapult ourselves to states of wealth. And that in it and of itself is making South African marriages not to work.
Marry, divorce, divorce, and collect the bag.
Exactly, because we are literally using other people's lives, hard-earned work, in order to bind them to certain gains that we want for ourselves that actually proves our failure. There is nothing boastful about exiting a marriage as a man and saying, I managed to get the house from that woman, or as a woman saying, I managed to get half his pension, I managed to get this. Imagine your parents failed you so much to such an essence that you want to use marriage to get money from your spouse in order to make yourself wealthy.
And you faked loving them.
Exactly. That is the highest state of failure, which actually also speaks to the quality of parenting your parents could have. You understand? And that's a deadly place to be, because they didn't raise a normal person. They raised a criminal that uses marriage to be able to propel their lives forward.
Bester. What's our last one, Eric?
And the last one, which is the most important one that's making South African marriages fail, the inability to develop. Staying at the same stage of life, same mindset, same body look, same feel. You are still wearing the same shoes you wore in high school. You are still having the same mindset you have in high school. The inability to expand, basically that's destroying marriages today.
Stuck in one place.
Stuck in one place. And the spouse realizes that I have married a person who cannot go to great heights in life. They're going to drag me back. And I know I wanted to mention cheating and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit down and say marriages are being destroyed because of cheating. No, that's not true at all. The truth of the matter is we don't want to sit and be honest about where the relationship started before it went down that road.
Yeah.
We don't want to discuss what took place before we went down that road, or how, or when people go down that road. So you need to be very honest with yourself. Cheating is a symptom of a bigger reality that is sitting in the marriage. So if a person goes out of lust, the issue is just lust. But majority of marriages, you realize that it's not necessarily the cheating that's the problem. It's the actual source of what is making it die that causes some people to get out. I'm not saying they are right by getting out. However, some get out because they genuinely and authentically want to find themselves with people they truly and authentically love. But some cheat simply because they are playful, they were not parented well, they don't carry good ethics, and they don't have a good morality level.
But some hang on for the kids.
Exactly. I mean, you know, that issue of hanging on for the kids, to be honest, it damages the kids more because they see toxicity at its highest.
Very much so.
And we need to be very careful about just staying in marriages for the sake of kids. Some people have raised better kids as co-parents than some have when they're inside the union but filled with toxicity. And that whole atmosphere is being fed to the child for 20 whatever odd years of their life. And one is outside there raising kids as co-parent, but the children are having the best of their life because they've got both parents involved, but they're in a healthy mindset. And that's something a lot of people don't want to accept within the South African norm.
Powerful, powerful stuff. As usual, Rick has given us so much, guys. Like I said when we began this, it is the challenge of marriage failing in South Africa, but there's solutions we're going to offer you. And these solutions are also linked to why certain things are happening. So if you do a deep dive, a self-introspection sometimes to say, am I happy in this union? Or do I want out? Do you sit and discuss with your partner? Do you find out what their challenges are? Do you go and consult, perhaps even with Rick himself as a marriage counselor? And that's what we want to get fixed in this country. We want to see more people stay together for the sake of the child, for the sake of the healthy union together, and to also promote better principles and morals around this union called marriage. And that's all we're trying to get through to you here at Redemption. Yet again, remember to like, subscribe, and share this platform of ours. We've had another great session with Rick, and see you again next time.